Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Here we go, August 4th. In Asia, first topic, Publisher's Desk. Are three kinds of temples. From 2009. This Publisher's Desk was written in response to a diminished appreciation of the importance of the home shrine. It's particularly true in the West. And almost no thought about the Atma Mandir, temple in the body. But one does naturally lead to the next. Siddhanta, worship is pursued through a natural progression. It begins with the kovo, the community temple. Next is added worship in the home shrine. And third, we add worship in the temple of the soul through meditation. These practices are called respectively Charya, Kriya, and Yoga. This Publisher's Desk presents the idea of three temples in a simple way, without any Siddhanta terminology. So normally in our Publisher's Desk, which is for Hinduism today, which is for all Hindu denominations, we don't use any, or at least minimize, Saivite terminology. It would be hard to overestimate the power and importance of the temple in Hindu culture and spiritual practice, the home of God to which we go for solace and connection with the divine. When we think of temples, we naturally think of community temples, those always welcoming, often ornate, magical spaces, which I like to call PURA Mandiras. Again, that's a word for Hinduism today. Worship in these temples is a central practice in Hinduism. But there is a broader, seldom discussed understanding of the temple in Sanatana Dharma, which embraces two other sacred places of communion as equally important. So that's an important statement, not of secondary importance. One is the home shrine, or GRIHA MANDIRA, and the other is the soul temple, or ATMA MANDIRA. Hindu communities revolve around the local temple, which serves as a hub of culture, worship, festivals, and more. For the devout, the ideal is to attend a puja at the community temple daily, or at least once a week, to participate in the major holy festivals celebrated within its precincts. This allows us to experience the blessings of God and the gods regularly, and to enjoy frequent fellowship with other devotees. A Hindu temple's divinic rays have the power to transform the course of karma, open inner doors to new opportunities, assuage long-held hurts, and provide inner visions equaling the fullness of devotion. So that's a nice way of putting it. If you want an inner vision, you have to have super amount of devotion going on. Regular worship at the community temple deepens our humility and our devotion to God. It also purifies and lifts our energies into higher chakras. We have arranged group pilgrimages to India and Sri Lanka since 1969, and some pilgrims on various programs had life-changing visions of Lord Vinayaga as well as other deities. Such visions, born of the intensity of pilgrimage and inner striving, would often come in the form of the stone or bronze murti moving, smiling at them, turning into an animated human-like figure. Some devotees, with their eyes closed, inwardly saw the deity's face, as real as any living being. Occasionally, a devotee may have a vision of the deity. The more common way we experience him is uplifting, peaceful, divine energy or Shakti that radiates out from the image. These blessings of the deity are called Sanidja and refer to the radiance and blessed presence of Shakti in and around the temple. So it's our feeling nature, it's not the thinking mind that experiences the deity. Here's an analogy with experiencing the sun. If we go outside on a sunny day and close our eyes, we can feel the sun's rays on our skin without seeing the sun in the sky, and in that way experience the sun. This is similar to what happens in the temple. Our inner or spiritual eye, the third eye, is not open, so we don't see the deity. However, we can feel in our nervous system the spiritual energy that radiates out from the murti, and in this way experience the deity. So we feel the energy. Gurudeva shares an insightful description of this process in his book, Loving Ganesha. What is this Shakti, you may be wondering? It is being in the presence of divinity. All holy men and women emanate all of these Shaktis, and you can too. Some stronger than others. Shakti is divine radiation from the third world, causal plane, through the second world astral plane and into the first physical plane. The astral body is in the second world and lives inside the physical body, and it is through the astral body that Shakti is felt, not thought about, felt. Okay, looks like a blank slide. We had an interesting experience in this regard. At our Hawaii monastery, we have a temple to Lord Nataraja that was founded in 1973. Following tradition, 12 years later in 1985, we had a Kumbhabhishekam, or reconsecration ceremony. The priest took the power of the temple into the kumbhas, placed them in a tent under a nearby tree. The change was dramatic. The temple that had felt like a holy place a few hours before now felt like an empty warehouse. There was no sense of sanctity at all left in the building. The priests had removed it and placed it under the tent. Isn't that an amazing ability to have? Take all the sacredness out of a temple in a few hours. This experience impressed me deeply as to what was the special blessing, energy, Shakti, Sanidja, darshan of the deity that is usually present in the Hindu temple. Feels like, and how blessed we are to be in its presence. In addition to worship, we can also perform seva at the temple and accrue even more spiritual benefits. Tirumanduram, an ancient scripture by Rishi Tirumula, lists a number of traditional chores in verse 109. The simple temple duties: lighting the lamps, picking flowers, lovingly polishing the floors, sweeping, singing the Lord's praise, ringing the bell, and fetching ceremonial water. These constitute the Dasamarga, path of the servant. Additionally, those who qualified can volunteer to teach Hinduism to the youth. And my story here. Over the last few years, I have had the privilege of attending Kumbhabhishekams for Shiva temples, and then it lists all the various cities, quite a few. Special ceremonies conducted on these occasions by an especially large number of well-trained priests are always exceptionally uplifting times. On most of these occasions, there is some interaction with the youth of the temple as a formal seminar. A lecture is simply an informal question and answer session. During one of these breaks at one of the Kumbhabhishekams, I was chatting with some of the older youth who were sons and daughters of the trustees and other key members. They were challenging me with the question, since God is omnipresent, what is the need to build large temples to worship Him? Cost of construction is quite large, plus then you have the ongoing costs of monthly maintenance. It has to be met. Couldn't all that money be spent in a better way? So who remembers my answer? So basically, I challenge them to see God in the room. Since God is omnipresent, shouldn't we be able to experience Him equally everywhere? For example, God permeates this room. By looking intently at the room, shouldn't you be able to experience God? In theory, you should. I then ask those present to look around how many can see God permeating this room. All the youth present had to admit that they couldn't see God permeating the room. I then continued, practically speaking, God's omnipresence is a very subtle form of consciousness, too subtle for most of us to experience unless we are quite skilled in meditation. I then gave an analogy with other objects that are difficult to see. See if anyone remembers my analogy. If we want to see a distant galaxy, we can go to an observatory and use a powerful telescope. To see into the nucleus of a cell, we can go to a laboratory and use an electron microscope. Similarly, to see God, there is a powerful tool we can use to enable us to be successful. Then I next mentioned temples are sacred for 3 reasons. So this is an important point. So what are the 3 reasons? We can go to the temple and through the sanctified murti experience God. Temples, and especially the murtis within them, have this ability because they are especially sacred places for 3 reasons: construction, consecration, and continuous daily worship. So I chose them because they sound alike. It's easy to remember. I'll start with construction, consecration, and continuous daily worship. Like a Tamil poem. First syllable rhymes. Hereditary temple architects known as Sthapadis are commissioned to design and construct the temple. By tradition, every stone is set in place according to the sacred architecture found in the Agamic scriptures. So even in big cities, temple trustees, they don't hire a local Western architect. Easier, they find a traditional architect, a Sthapadi, to lay out the temple, because even the dimensions, the distances between everything is very important. Consecration occurs through the powerful ceremony of Kumbhabhishekam. It involves a large number of priests performing elaborate ceremonies for days on end. And for a new temple, one that's never had a Kumbhabhishekam before, it's like turning the power on. You flip the switch, and now it has power flowing through it because of the Kumbhabhishekam. Before the Kumbhabhishekam, it didn't have any power. Just a building. Then begins the schedule of daily pujas that are held thereafter, conducted by professional priests. This is important. The daily pujas sustain and gradually increase the sanctity set in motion at the Kumbhabhishekam. So Kumbhabhishekam by itself is not enough. If you didn't do anything more, it would wane over probably a short period of time. In these three ways, the temple and the murtis within them are sanctified. If you are finding fulfillment by worshiping in your community temple, don't stop there. What temple do we go to next? What's it called? Of course, it's the home shrine. GRIHA MANDIRA, home shrine. And as I say, in our modern Hindu society, particularly in Western countries, I think, the importance of the home shrine is not that well understood. And you get really big, beautiful houses and there's no shrine room. I know a number of swamis who gently scold their devotees. You really should have a shrine room. Such a big house, you got plenty of rooms. Oh, that's good that they're doing that. The ideal Hindu home centers around the home shrine, a special room set aside and maintained to create a temple-like atmosphere, which holds us close to our spiritual goals and practices. In this holy space, we conduct puja, read scripture, perform sadhana, sing bhajana, and do japa. Here we can always feel the presence of God and the gods whom we honor, especially in the morning and evening and before meals, which we offer to them before we partake. And some practical advice on the home shrine. Works best when it is an entire room. That way it can be strictly reserved for worship and meditation, unsullied by worldly talk or other activities. When that ideal is not possible, it should at least be a quiet corner of a room and more than a simple shelf or closet. Definitely not a shelf in the kitchen. Make the shrine a refuge for all family members where they can find peace and solace, where they can connect with the gods and offer their praise, prayers, and practical needs. Then we get a lengthy description here. I don't think I need to read it. Basically, it's encouraging everyone to learn the Atmartha Puja, the version of the puja that family people can do. The temple-like atmosphere of the shrine room can prevail throughout the home if family members handle disagreements and difficult issues in a harmonious professional way, avoiding arguments and expressions of anger. You've heard me talk about that on a regular basis because it's important, and again, it's not understood. It's thought that it's okay to argue at home. Where else would husband and wife argue at home? Where else would husband and wife argue? Can't argue in the restaurant, they get kicked out. They don't both work in the same place. But the basic idea is we need to uphold the same standard of professional conduct at home that we uphold at work. We wouldn't argue at work. We know we'd lose our job. We shouldn't argue at home. This is an important point. How elaborate should the puja conducted in the home shrine be? It can vary from short and simple to long and complex. This is a long and complex name. The late and renowned Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Mahaswamiji, Kanchipuram Kamakoti Peedam, commented, every family must perform puja to Ishvara. Those who find it convenient to do so may conduct elaborate types of puja after receiving proper initiation into them. Others need perform only a brief puja, not lasting more than 10 minutes or so. Office goers must offer at least this brief worship. The sacred bell must ring in every home. I like that one. The sacred bell must ring in every home. Sounds like something Gurudeva would say. So that's our idea of the Ganesha Puja. It doesn't require initiation, but the Shiva Puja does. So what we're doing fits right into his concept. Wonderful man. Ideally, all members of the family gather together in the shrine room for a puja each morning. Additionally, visit the shrine at other key times brings special benefits. Visiting the shrine before leaving the home reminds you that work is also worship. When approached in a spiritual way, a strategic attitude that helps you maintain a religious perspective during your time out of the home. Visiting the shrine upon returning home provides a few minutes to release any negative worldly vibrations you have taken on while away. Ran into the idea among some devotees, well, in our home we don't go in the shrine room until we take a bath. It's a great discipline. So then you can stand in front of the shrine room. You don't have to go in, and if you're upholding that discipline. Visiting before an important event, such as a job interview or a major exam at school, you can pray for special blessings and guidance. Retreating to this oasis when emotionally disturbed or reflecting on a personal problem reminds you to spiritually center yourself and overcome the challenge or upset condition, the blessings of God and the gods. These are several ways the home shrine can benefit the family. By your example, you teach these practices to your children, practices that will sustain them as they make their passage through life. Performing your own individual puja in the home shrine with sincerity and regularity unfolds a relationship with the divine that is likened to that of a child to a parent, called Saputra Marga. Path of the dutiful child, PURA Mandiram summarizes. Puja, reading the scriptures, singing hymns, performing japa and unsullied austerity. Truthfulness, restraint of envy, and offering of food. These and other self-purifying acts constitute the flawless Satputra Marga, or Kriyapada. If you're finding fulfillment by worshiping in the home shrine, don't stop there. What temple do we go to next, and what's its Sanskrit name? Consider worshiping in the Atma Mandira if you are not already practicing yoga meditation. So that's the ultimate temple, the soul within us. And you can ask, well, why don't we just start out trying to worship there? Well, because it's an advanced practice. It's amazing how regularly this happens. But devotees I'm talking to say, I try to meditate and I can't quiet my thoughts. Everybody says the same thing. So there's no point in doing a practice that you're not ready to do. It's like trying to play an advanced piece of music or sing an advanced Carnatic song that you're not ready to perform. There's no point even trying. You got to back up, do what you're supposed to do to get ready to worship in the Atma Mandira. So Yogi Swami has a nice statement here. Yogi Swami said, God lives in this house built of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Therefore, keep the house clean and the mind pure and conduct yourself with calmness. Nice way of describing it, huh? Keep the house clean. the mind pure. Markandeya Swami, his disciple, recounted his Guru's instructions. Yoga Swami said, leave your relations downstairs, your will, your intellect, your senses. Leave the fellows and go upstairs by yourself and find out who you are. Then you can go downstairs and be with the fellows. Nice British word there, fellows. Yoga Swami was describing the internal form of worship, meditation in the sacred chamber of the soul, wherein we quiet our physical bodies till our astral and mental bodies become centered in our immortal spiritual body of light. Strive for, discover, and ultimately merge with God within. Through meditation, we temporarily set aside our mundane concerns and experience our refined spiritual nature that is always serene and centered, source of intuition, solace, and strength for all our activities. Consistent practice of meditation has the power to increase our concentration, observation, understanding, compassion, appreciation, cooperation, mental acuity, emotional stability, willpower, and our ability to see God in all things and all people. Quite a list. God abides in all three of these temples. In the community temple, he is worshipped in elaborate formal ways, mystical ways that bring his Shakti or power to the inner chamber to bless the world. In the home shrine, he is worshipped in simple, loving ways which bring his presence into the home to guide the family through karma's sometimes difficult passages and bless their pursuits. In the chamber of the heart, he is worshipped as the life of life, the self of ourself, to awaken peace of mind, insight, inspiration, and enlightenment. The three temples stand as a central pillar of Hindu life. Successful worship in all three temples over many lifetimes culminates in jnana, divine wisdom, which we see in an enlightened being, a soul in its maturity, immersed in the blessed realization of God while living out earthly karma. Being the life of life is splendorous jnana worship. So that means there's no duality. That's monism. You are the life. Total monism. Beholding the light of life is great yoga worship. So there's a sense of two there, because you aren't the light, you're seeing it. And that's yoga. Giving life by invocation is external worship, performing puja. So you're giving life to the murti. That's theism. Adoration that displaces anger is charya worship. So that's doesn't specifically talk about the temple, but that's an important part of charya, is to control the baser emotions. As you see, our experience of the three temples of Hinduism is an ancient one that survives in the 21st century. Okay, and right. Story there. We already did. Second topic, as usual, character qualities from the character building workbook. We're in the C's. Cleanliness is the 10th character quality. How would you define cleanliness? Pretty simple. Workbook gives this definition. Cleanliness means being free of dirt or filth. I observe it by good housekeeping and by bathing and washing my clothes frequently. Opposite is dirtiness. Okay, this one should have been over here. Very good. Gurudeva, a clean personal environment, wearing clean clothes, bathing often, keeping the room spotless where you meditate, breathing clean air, letting fresh air pass through your house is all very important in the fulfillment of purity. So even in colder climates, it's good to let in some fresh air a few times a day in the house so it doesn't not have some clean air in it. Another quote from Gurudeva, while purity and impurity refer to physical cleanliness, their more important meanings extend to social, ceremonial, mental, emotional, psychic, and spiritual cleanliness or contamination. Freedom from all forms of contamination is a key to Hindu spirituality and is one of the yamas. Physical purity requires a clean and well-ordered environment, yogic purging of the internal organs, and frequent cleansing with water. And reflection, take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve personal and environmental cleanliness. Third topic, as usual, words of our master, Yoga Swami. See what he has to say here. Sivadhyanam will come by itself from living in the company of great souls. What does that mean to you? The meaning I took is, it's pointing out the benefit of being part of a group who is striving spiritually. It automatically rubs off on you. So we've solved the modern challenge of spiritual groups with Zoom. Nowadays it can take so long to get to a physical satsang that many people don't go. Traffic has gotten worse and satsangs are at greater distances. So we have our Zoom satsang, which means we bypass the modern problem there. So it's very important to interrelate with other people on the path, particularly in the beginning stages or in stages when facing extra challenges in your life. Helps stabilize you. And then when you're doing really well, you help stabilize others. So you take turns being the stability. We have reminds me of the geese. Geese are very interesting. Usually in the US you think of geese, Canadian geese, that come all the way down into the southern states during the cold months and then go all the way back up. In Hawaii, we have some Hawaiian geese, not very many. There's a flock of, I think about 5 or 6, flies overhead regularly in the morning. And geese, they take turn leading. Any birds that fly long distances, they take turn being the leader. The leader faces more air resistance, so gets tired or quicker. And then the leader can go back and all the other birds reduce the air resistance for the one in the back. So it's an interesting way they take turns being the leaders. So similar idea to what happens in a spiritual sangam. And next quote, if you remove illusion, you will see that Shiva pervades everything. What does that mean to you? The idea I got from it are the external and the internal are tied together. So we have to remove the external, and then we are seeing Shiva pervading. Very interesting idea. Oh, thank you very much. Om.